what that means is you got to understand what the market is asking for. And that's a very dynamic thing, and it changes. Some professions or occupations change a little more or less frequently than others. So we're going to start with looking at jobs in the market. And I think a little bit of the mental shift here is these don't have to be jobs that you apply to, right? Let's learn. JD's, job descriptions, are the market telling us what they expect from the role we want. So let's start there. All right. So to set context, we are Tina Miller, who is a Teal member, play on letters there. And Tina is a senior marketer. Tina is looking for senior growth marketing manager positions, marketing director. Obviously, that's going to change in lots of different companies. We're going to use LinkedIn. A lot of these will apply to other job boards if you like those better. So, but let's understand what's going on in the market. So I'm over here on LinkedIn. Like I said, I'm Tina Miller, and let's go over to our jobs and let's do, digital marketing. Let's start to look for jobs here. Okay. And JDs are going to, already you can see the kind of complexity, right? I just put in digital marketing. Now it's going to use my profile, I think, to assume. So if you did this search, you're going to get different results than me because Tina Miller has career history, but it's going to do vice president, marketing manager, director, client marketing. Right? And some of these may or may not be ones that I'm interested in. But what you want to do is understand what's going on in the JD. And the basic anatomy to a JD is like a little bit about the company, responsibilities, requirements. You can always kind of bank on those being there. Maybe you get nice to haves, and then compensation, benefits, and then like disclaimers. So what I would do is go over to this required qualification section. Right? This is going to tell me the kind of stuff I need to put in my resume. So this is almost like your research. If you were a journalist prior to writing anything, what does the market want? Because I could list out all the things I can do, but if the market doesn't want those, that might be a bit of a wasted effort. So let's look at jobs. And so here we are. And so now here's where Teal comes in. You could read these one by one. I recommend that you read some, but if you install the Teal Chrome extension, which I'm not going to cover how to install an extension. It's pretty straightforward. Just head over to the Chrome store, hit install. If anyone needs it, I'm happy to cover it. Actually, I think we have a video in our support center, so you can see how to do that. But once it's installed, you get the Teal duck here. And you can click that, and it's going to help you very quickly see some things. And what I recommend is to batch this process. Now thinking about what you're going to do on a regular basis and kind of create habits around is we want to just grab jobs, right? And you want to get in the habit of doing this, I'd say, in the front part of every week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There's no hard and fast rule or science to when jobs get posted, but sort of in my time hiring, sort of the earlier in the week, I sort of fill some interviews, wash, rinse, repeat. From looking at our data, a lot of the activities on the front part of the week, and it just kind of fades off. So I would just come up with a day that you do this, maybe multiple times, maybe every day, but batch this exercise of finding jobs. This one, okay, here's kind of some high level stuff. It's on site, so not for me. This one is, sure, Disney, I'm interested, so I'll go ahead and save that job. And what you can do is keep going down and save jobs. And what I'd recommend is you batch this exercise. And if you want to, start to sort of tune what it is you're looking for. So right here, if there's enough about this job that you can make a decision on, you can say, okay, well, this one's really like a 4 for me. And what you're starting to do is hone your qualification process, what excites you. And the more you do that, the faster you can get at it. You can even add some notes if you need to. So I would batch this exercise. And what I mean by batching is that's like a manufacturing process, right? We could say bookmark, go tailor my resume, go send out an application, do all over. I think when it comes to job searching, it actually makes more sense to batch these activities so you're not context switching. So do a whole bunch of bookmarking, then modify, customize some resumes, and then send out a bunch of applications. You could maybe do like modify, apply. But I think the bookmarking part and the sort of qualifying which ones you want to go after, I would absolutely batch this part of the process. Another thing I would do is if you're not quite sure what comp range you want to be in, I would search for jobs in states that require salary transparency. Even if you don't intend to work there, a state like Colorado is going to give you a really good understanding of what the general comp ranges are for positions, because I'd say it's like a good 80% sort of cover. Maybe it's not San Francisco rates and New York rates, and maybe it's not sort of smaller town rates, but I think it's a good understanding, especially as more remote jobs start to happen. I think it's a really good sort of benchmark. So let's do like Colorado here. And one of the cool things about having the Chrome extension is if the JD has salary information, we're going to pull it out for you. Right? We're going to find it in the body of the job description. And so you can start to then also get a better sense for what the market is. Right? Here's a senior director. I'll go ahead and save that. Some of the comp ranges are a little crazy. 100% comp range is not the most helpful, but in some ways that folks are kind of dancing around the requirements, although they may have a legit wide range in who they're willing to hire. So I'd still take that over nothing. So bookmark a bunch of jobs. Okay, I think we've got quite a few now. So now that your jobs are bookmarked, you can head over to Teal. And oops, let's see what happened there. Let's try. I think I have a sense of what might have happened. My job tracker. Yeah, this is purely like a testing thing, because I create lots of accounts so I can do these demos and I make a fresh one every time. So the account was not logged in. It was logged into the wrong Teal account. The extension and the platform were not talking to each other. So let's go ahead and save a few again. Let's just double check that worked. There we go. So if you're creating multiple accounts for some reason, that is something that could happen. So let me just save a few. And what I would do is I would start to rate them. So you're sort of establishing that calibration of what's exciting to you, company size, because I think by looking at jobs, we get a better understanding as well. Sometimes we'll say, I want to work at a small company, or I want to work at a big company, but you find yourself bookmarking a whole bunch of jobs at companies you never knew about. And well, actually, maybe I'm more open to opportunities than I realized, or I'm learning things. So that's why I really like this process of just looking at jobs quickly, skim the JD, you look at the skills. And another cool thing about using the Chrome extension is you can do this on lots of job boards. The same exact workflow could happen on Indeed. A job searching interface that I really like is Google. So I'm using Chrome. It's the only place it works. So let's do digital marketing director. And if you just type jobs, you're going to get this box at the top of Google here. And if I click on the blue bar, now it takes me to their job searching interface. It's actually not the easiest to find, but it works pretty great. And usually the Teal Chrome extension works on it. If for some reason it doesn't want to pop up sometimes, you can click this little puzzle piece and click this little pin. And now you should be able to click it. And there it goes. They might have changed the URL for some reason. Actually, I just saw like a whole update to all the Google UIs. There's like more rounded things, and my Chrome interface is slightly different. So, but that's how you can bring it up if it doesn't come up for some reason. We try to auto detect it so it's not ever present, but now you can save jobs on here. And like I said, this is a great job because they aggregate all the aggregators. So, and you can do like full on Google search queries and their Boolean parameters. So I like it a lot. And then the cool thing is you can then head over to Teal and you will get a consistent interface. They will all look the same, whether you're using Indeed, Glassdoor, built-in. So now I've got all my jobs here, right? And I can go through them and I can start to rate them here if I want. I can look at the JDs in a very consistent way. I can add some notes if I want to in my job tracker. And the ones that I intend to apply to, I like moving them to the applying stage. Right. It's a little, if you were building your own job tracker, you probably wouldn't add that stage, but I like that as setting up as a kind of a queue or a staging ground of all the jobs I intend to apply to, that I'm going to start to modify resumes for, that I might start to do some networking. So it gives me like a holding ground before they've been applied and they're waiting there. And then you can start to use some of these tools like, check to see if you know somebody. This is RBI, the company that owns Burger King. We have these quick links right here in the guidance. We're always trying to give you guidance every step of the way. So if you click here, it's going to give you a pre-populated search on LinkedIn for first degree connections. So Tina Miller doesn't have any connections. So we'll do that. And now it's going to filter that for you. So it's just saving you clicks. These are best practices. You could do them yourselves. See how it filled in the company here. And you can use Teal to start to bookmark people as well. So, here's, I don't know this person, but I'll go ahead and bookmark the contact. So I can say, I don't know this person. My goal is to try to set up an informational interview, to be contacted, give myself a reminder for tomorrow, and save the contact. And what I could do now is head back over to my job tracker and go to my contacts, and I can attach that contact to this job. It doesn't do it automatically. We'll get there eventually, but if you want to start to track your contacts, those are there. And so the Chrome extension is really great for building up this research and the networking and all these early parts. And I actually recommend you do as much of this almost even before you work on your resume. Now, there's a lot of downtime in the job search, so you could kind of be multitasking, but I really like getting an understanding of the market. A similar thing you could do if I'm looking for a, digital performance marketing, let's go ahead and search for that job and see, search that title, and I can do people, and I can see other people that have that job title. So I don't know this person, but by looking at their career history, I can see the kind of jobs they've had. So this could be more for research. I don't know this person. I actually don't have a goal at all, or I want to research their career. I'll save the contact. And now when I go view my saved contacts, I can look at what are the various titles they've had, what's their career progression look like, what are the skills they have, what titles have they had. And so you can do this just for research. And so, it's a little bit of a flipping of, I think, the sort of normal or expected approach, like work on my resume, get it kind of perfect, and then go look for jobs. And I see it as a big impediment for people a lot of times. Like, I can't start applying yet. I can't look at jobs yet because my resume is not right. You can do both at the same time if that's you and you really want to get it right. But doing that research and looking at what other people are doing with that same title that you're going after is going to inform how you write your research. And it's going to be a response to the market versus your idea of the way you want to present yourself. And how you present yourself isn't, I don't want to say that's not important. It is really important. But if how you present yourself is not informed by what the market's asking, then you may just kind of be screaming into a void. So I think having that understanding of what the market wants and how do I want to present myself to that market is really important. All right, so that's the job tracker. And so now that we've bookmarked a whole bunch of jobs and we've seen some that we're excited about, we've learned, we've got those in our system. We come back over to our Teal home. We can see we've got a couple other little tasks to do. My career goal is set. Now let's make our first resume. All right, let's go over to our resume builder, which is this icon here. And when you first go to the resume builder, should prompt you with a little green pop-up to put in your LinkedIn URL. I haven't cleared my cookies, so I didn't see it. If you want to do it again, you just go to menu, import resume or LinkedIn. We recommend importing your LinkedIn. Obviously, the content may not be exactly the same as your resume. Resumes are a little less predictable in terms of structure and format, and how they're parsed. So we recommend using your LinkedIn to get all that core data of dates and all that stuff, because LinkedIn is very, very predictable. So your LinkedIn profile, if you don't know what it is, I'll go over to Tina's profile, is this URL right here, /, Tina-Miller. So I'll just copy that whole thing, head back over to the resume builder, and I will paste that in there. Again, you could drop a PDF on here. It's, like I said, it's just not as reliable. We're working to do some things to build kind of a custom parser that structures it and can be a lot better about taking any resume. But for now, I recommend the LinkedIn. Oops, I hit the wrong button. So let's go ahead and import that. And now our LinkedIn has populated a bunch of our career history. And you can see it here in the first pass of your resume. So first, before we dive in, I want to give a little bit of the sort of conceptual framework for the Teal resume builder. It is built on the premise that you've got a career history, and what you want to do is show the 10% of you that is 100% relevant to a company. So at its core, Teal is really a database of all your career successes, all your career achievements, and it makes it very easy for you to turn things on and off and just show like lenses, like, a piece of you, but not having to remove and delete these amazing accomplishments you've had. Let's just show the ones that are most relevant to people. So over here on the left, you've got your career history. Let's go ahead and fill it in with a little bit more info. We don't need our address. In some places that's required. Here, I want that to save to all resumes. We'll get into this more, but I'm going to go ahead and save that. All right, so now I can turn on and off the things I want on a particular resume. In this case, I actually don't need all this. Let's see. Sometimes we can work through that. Yep, there it goes. There's that. Oh, my email address is very, very long for the purposes of this webinar. So let's just get rid of that. There we go. That looks a little more presentable. And we can work our way down just the core data. Your professional summary comes in, so you want to turn that on. And that does that. Then we've got our work experiences that were brought in. We'll turn these on. These don't turn on by default. We're going to fix this week. So we'll get those dates on. Get our education. We'll do the end date of the education, and all our skills are on. All right. So now we pretty much have a one-to-one of our LinkedIn. And if I wanted to start to modify this resume and start to add more content, I can use Teal to do that. If you have a separate resume that you want to start to paste that content in, you would come over to the individual jobs and you would say add achievement. And here you can just paste in those individual bullets. Now, another thing that's a little different about the Teal resume builder is it's not just a whole bunch of rich text like a Google Doc or like a Notion doc. Each achievement is its own item and record in the database. And so we maintain them as individual things. So that's why you need to make one achievement per box here. You can do it a couple different ways. You could just paste in one. You could write one. We have a bunch of suggestions here. We always try to give you guidance as you're taking an action. We have a simple little assistant here, which is almost like Mad Libs. You've got a bunch of different verbs. So say you increased, we've got some nouns. You can change these. You don't have to use these. We've just got some starters to help you think through it. So increased revenue from, 50K per month to 200K per month in 6 months by relaunching the consumer onboarding, right? And so you can see it sort of constructs the statement for you down here, and you can save it, and it'll toss it right in here as an achievement. Let's go ahead and add another. Actually, let's add some down here to some of these jobs. So this one doesn't have any at all, right? So you've got examples you could use. These prompts are not AI prompts. When we first put this in here, that wasn't as common of like colloquial language. These were sort of mental prompts for you to think of things you did, because we see sometimes people struggle. I don't remember really what I did. It wasn't that measured. I didn't have any metrics. So here's just some questions you can ask yourself to help you jostle some ideas. Then the fastest and easiest way is to use AI, right? We've got the job title, and we pass that over to AI, and it will generate possibilities for you. The AI was not with you. It does not know your career, doesn't know exactly what you worked on. So think of these as really smart templates or suggestions, and you can then take them and modify them. So think of them as starter files, or like kind of seed files to write achievements. This could have been 40% in 12 months in your case. And maybe it wasn't SEO, it was PPC or organic social, but it gives you a structure that you can modify. You can go ahead and save that. And if that was pretty close and you feel like there's another version of it, you can duplicate it. So we'll duplicate that achievement. And now you've got another, and you can edit it. And so in this case, increased, social media following, and you see. Now, this is where syncing and managing multiple resumes comes into place. I completely changed this achievement. And so for this and future resumes, or if I had other resumes that I'd created, I'd probably want to save this to all of them. So you want to check save to all resumes. This was something we released last week. Actually, I think Tuesday night. So last Monday's version of this webinar, I wasn't able to show this functionality, but now I can. So let's go ahead and save that. All right. So now that's there. And you get the idea. I can continue to add these. Let's go ahead and add an achievement. Let's build out a little bit more of my resume. So I'll go ahead and save that one, because this one was kind of empty. I did it a long time ago. And obviously review these. Don't just take what the AI does. So, but for sort of expediency here, I'm going to zip through those. All right. So we've got our work experience filled out. And what we're doing here is we're focusing on the content first, right? We want to get that content right. And then we're going to want to, and ideally you'd be pulling in some of those keywords from those jobs that you looked at. Now I'm going to show you how Teal is going to help you do that automatically. But we can also now start to analyze our resume, right? We recommend a target title. So in this case, one of these jobs was, let's go over to our job tracker, director. This is what we call a target title. It's sort of a channeling, a projecting of the job you're applying to. So I would put that in here, and I would put that at the top of my resume, right? And so it's free, especially if it's not a title you've had before. It's a nice way to get it on the page. That's really kind of a contentious topic. I'd say it's like 50-50. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm a fan. If you don't like it, you can just turn it off. So now that's been addressed. And so improve metrics. My professional summary doesn't have any metrics, which let's go ahead and address that. So now that you've filled out your career history, when you go to add a professional summary, you can actually ingest all that information and create a summary with it. So you don't have to write it. It's a starting place. I like to think about it as getting to third base. It's a little bit long. We like 350 characters, so you can modify it and then tweak it, but we'll just go ahead and save it for now. And so now I've got a new professional summary that addressed that. And you can see it pulled in and synthesized my career history. So we're in a pretty good place on the content. And the next thing we'll do is we will grab one of those JDs that we use. So here's a bunch of different jobs that I bookmarked. Let's try to get that exact one I was looking at. Right now, this current resume is a 12% match. And they try to get it into the yellow and above. Some people really get worked up with getting the exact same keywords. What I'd say is focus on these high priority keywords. And what we do is we look at words that show up more than twice or in the required section. We call those high priority. And they're not really weighted right now. It's a really simple matching score. It's really about looking at the keywords that are there and do you have them? So obviously this is a performance marketing position and it's nowhere to be found on my resume. That's probably problematic, assuming I've done paid advertising or performance marketing. Don't ever recommend you put things on there that you haven't done. So I'd say, hey, we work in this senior marketing manager position. I did do performance marketing. Let's go ahead and add an achievement. And the cool thing is when you have a job attached, the JD gets injected into the AI as well. So now when I do generate with AI, it's going to pull it in. Now it may not just, so there's performance media, right? I may want to change that to marketing. Go ahead and save that. And so now that's been satisfied, right? Paid is another word that's not in here. So let's go ahead and say over here, when I was a marketing manager at Facebook, I did that. Let's go ahead and generate with AI and see what it gives me. Sometimes the AI spits in these little quotes. That's not helpful. Grew digital orders by 60% year over year in 3 months, optimizing budget. And let's call it paid media strategies. Go ahead and save that. And so now I've satisfied that. All right, so that's how you can use the matching, and you can see my scores gone up. You get the top five keywords for free. I'm going to upgrade us to Teal Plus in a little bit, and we can sort of maybe tackle some of the others. All right, now let's look at the formatting of our resume. We say the content's in a good place. We feel like we're ready to apply to this job. Let's go over to the formatting. There are a lot of opinions and a lot of thoughts on how a resume should look. The Teal platform is fairly opinionated on really not letting people break best practices. And what we mean best practices are, talking to hiring managers, folks in the hiring process, and what they look for. And I'd say across the board, when you deviate from the norm, it just makes people curious. I think the default assumption is you're trying to mask or hide something. So there's a lot of those things that kind of the software doesn't let you do right now. But for the most part, it lets you produce really sort of best practice succeeding resumes. So there's a couple little things, like stylistically, if you want to do something like that, if you want to do something that's a little more traditional, right? So these are the layouts that you can work with. We'll go with this one. Then there's a couple of things you can do if you want to add like a small accent color. You could do that. It does just this line and the headings. Then there's things that, don't make too much of a difference, but I think, ultimately what I like to say is you need to be confident in the material you're submitting. So that's the most important, that you feel good about it. So if things like the date alignment, you like it on the right, no problem. Right? The cool thing about it being a database is that we can represent the data however. And so things that used to require an entire resume rewrite or moving over to a new template, you can now iterate. Say you wanted to do half one way and half another and see if it made a difference. You can do this very simply, right? If you wanted to show the short name of the dates, you can do that. If you would prefer to show the date ranges by position, by default, we do it at the company level because that shows the most tenure and the longest date range. But if you said, hey, for me, I don't like that, let's do work experience date range by position. And so now you can see, it moved them down. So now it's twice rather than once. And if for some real reason you needed both, you could do that. I don't recommend this, and we generally don't like to put in things, but I don't think this is going to cost you getting moved forward. So if it's something you really prefer, no problem. Again, my preference is by company. Another one is if you wanted to group the work experience by position. I don't like this because it has to duplicate the company name. And I think at a quick glance, this could be mistaken for job hopping if people aren't thorough in their initial skim. But, if the content is good, I don't think that'll be an issue. So that's how you start to adjust those things. And then if you need to rearrange the sections, if for some reason you wanted to put your skills at the top, you just rearrange that here. Right. And, we've got some new stuff coming soon. I think in the next couple of weeks, we'll have new sections. We're going to have projects, awards and achievements, volunteering, publications. They're not there right now, but they are actively in development and they should be here within weeks. And the skills sections, I know like rearranging and grouping your skills is a little tricky. That's coming also in the next few weeks. So now I've got a resume that I feel good about. And this is, I would export this out as a PDF. And we'll just save that to my desktop. You can, name it whatever you'd like. Actually recommend Tina Miller. And if you wanted to, you could put the name of the company. But like some sort of random name's not helpful. Sometimes companies will look at them if they save them. So you want your name, maybe even the position. You can rename the resumes here. So I would call this like I'm a really bad typer and speller, marketer. All right, and so I've got that resume there. So that is how you create a resume. And now say we wanted to apply to a different job. So what we could do is we'll go back over to a resume builder and we could make a new resume. And by doing that, that's going to pull everything in. We didn't make very many customizations, so we'll just go ahead and make a new one. And this new one is not going to be matched to anything, and so there's a couple little things when you make a new one, these like don't turn on by default, which we're working on that. The dates don't turn on by default, but it's like for this one, say I don't want this achievement. I don't want this achievement or this achievement, and I want to put this one first. All right, so now you can make these modifications, but you're not destroying any of the data. It's all still there. And now say for this particular one, I wanted to modify, well, actually, let's go to one on the top so it's easier. This one, I don't know. I don't want to use the word boosted. I want to use the word grew for some reason, but the intention is the same. And I'm not going to check save all resumes. So this one resume has it as that language. And you continue to make your changes. And if I go back over to my performance marketing, you'll now see that it knows that there was a change. And so now this is for you to decide as you're managing your sort of career database of all achievements, which is kind of the main one. Could be this is the one it continues to use. Or if I actually wanted to load this into all resumes, I would say save updated version to this resume, and that pulls it in. Right. And so this allows you to sync information. So those days of managing 10, 15 different Word docs of different versions and copying, pasting, that's all gone. That's all here. And it makes it really easy. And that works across all the data, professional summaries, achievements, companies, all there. And we just released that last week. And so now you can manage how information shows up on each resume. And then once you have it attached to a job, one last thing I'll show here. Every once in a while, I'll get a little hung up like this. I'll just mash a refresh and see if that does it for me. There we go. I kind of like when these things break in demos because I show you guys how to fix it. So this one's already attached. For some reason, it's having a little bit of a hard time. So let's go over to this one that's not attached. We'll go to matching and we'll match another job. This is pulling in the JD. So that's there. There we go. There's the keywords. Something's going on. I'll dig into it, but something's up there. We will fix that. But then if you come over here to cover letter, because there's a job attached, it'll pull in everything that's turned on. So if there's certain achievements you don't want accounted for in the cover letter, turn those off. It's going to use the kind of the active version. It's going to take the JD and it will generate a cover letter for you. It's intentionally a little bit long because we want you to be able to trim things out. So you can tweak it and modify it. There's going to be some more controls coming soon around length and tonality. Our first approach to AI was like minimal amount of clicks, and a lot has happened in the AI space since we released this functionality. So expect more controls coming here in the next few weeks, months. But there you go. You get a cover letter. It accounts for your career history. It sort of weaves those two together, and you can then copy and paste that into a template of your liking. And that's the majority of what you can do with the free functionality. Again, contacts, same like your job tracker, they're here. You can also bookmark companies. Right now, that's not sort of deeply integrated. So it works as kind of a way to just track companies you're excited about. The Chrome extension does that here, and you can just save companies. You can rate them. So it works as a kind of a little bit of like a dream list, but that doesn't integrate with the job tracker. So it is a bit standalone. It does pull in the information for you. So if you kind of like monitor companies and look at, just kind of keep a database of companies you're excited about, that's a quick and easy way to do that. Then I would come over to my job tracker and I would move this job over to applied. Right. And now you want to work your way through your process and you want to keep track of your follow-ups. You want to add any notes that you might need to add. We've got some email templates that are baked in. There's one per stage for free. If you want to do follow-up, that's all here. And then once you make your way to the interviewing stage, you want to track your individual interviews. What's the date of the interview? I'm a big believer in what gets measured gets managed. So don't try to keep all this in your head. The job search is already incredibly overwhelming. I know it feels like one more thing to do. It's like, oh, I have it in my inbox. If they forget, if it gets in your spam for some reason, it's great to just have these reminders. The more you can have out of your head, the more you can focus your energy on being proactive and strategic in your job search. So I really recommend you track as much as you possibly can. Right? You can then use that information to learn. You could export out your tracker and see kind of what's working, what's not working. You can add, who you interviewed with. I forget the name of that contact. So, but you can add those, and then you can add more interviews, and sort of work as many interviews as you need to. And once, as you do that, we give you some insights back on your home. So the more data you put in, the richer this becomes. We will show you the top skills, the top 10 skills in aggregate of the jobs you've bookmarked. So those are here. That'll give you a kind of quick insight into the kind of keywords it should be in your resume. Maybe you're not sort of making custom resumes per job, but at least across all your jobs in your job tracker, these are words that continue to show up. So at least get those in there. We'll give you some efficacy on your pipeline. So bookmarked to applied to interviewing, and then you can set a weekly goal. I recommend at least 5 to 10, depending on sort of the pace that you need of your job search, but save that. And as you move more jobs into the applied stage, that'll update. So you also have this grid view. I kind of bypassed it because we didn't have jobs in here yet. But if you need to quickly come and move this job over, I applied to that one, I applied to that one, and I applied to that one. Now, when I go back over to my home, you can see that I'm almost at my goal. And a couple little things here. If you need to quickly filter your job tracker, you can just click on any of these chevrons, and then you click it again to turn off that filter. And if you wanted to group them by status, you could do that. It's a quick way to do that. If you need to export it, right here in this menu button, you can export. You can export a report, which that's going to put it as all the status changes. And that's great if you need to file for unemployment. It works with the majority of states, not all, but it gives you like a CSV file you could just take into Google Sheets. And then download data gives you an exact view of your job tracker. And then if you wanted to go to your archive jobs, these would be jobs that you've moved over to rejected or declined or archived. Come over to menu, go to archive jobs, and those are all there. So none of the data is gone unless you delete the job. If you delete it, then then it's gone for good. But otherwise, they're there. Yeah, and that's the job tracker. So that, I think, covers the majority of the functionality. Let me go ahead and upgrade this account to Teal Plus. Everything we just saw, we could do with Teal for free. And let me upgrade this account. Give it 1 week of Teal Plus. Okay, so now when we go over to analysis mode, you can see we've got all the analysis. We've got this rule that's looking for a time-based statement. This is probably the more obscure rule of all the rules, and it's a little rigid on language. So if you see this one, I wouldn't get too stressed about it. The intent of it is to put some kind of time parameter to your achievement. Right? I achieved it in 12 months, 6 months, instead of just like, I boosted revenue. Just makes it more punchy. It's an opportunity to get some more numbers in there. And that's the intent of that particular analysis. Let's see, things like if this, we recommend somewhere between 3 and 5 for the first job. So here's an example of work experience 1 doesn't have enough achievements, and we can go ahead and satisfy that. So that's what the analysis is going to give you. It's going to get a little more specific on sections and number of achievements per section and things like that. So as an example, if this one has too many, it's basically the further you go down the resume, the less you should have is our recommendation. So you can see, so now here it'll say, hey, too many in work experience number 4. And if I turn that off, it'll fix it. All right, then matching mode. Now you can see you get all the keywords. And if we do here, show all 35, what you want to look for is these blue ones. So that means it's actually in my career history already. I don't have to write anything. If I click here, it'll just show me where it is. Oh, this achievement has the word budget. So let's go ahead and turn that on, and that'll satisfy that keyword. I can turn that off. Sometimes we'll catch words that are in like the disclaimers or things like that. And so, maybe procurement just isn't that important. So you can ignore those keywords and it'll take them out of the algorithm. So that's all things you get with Teal Plus. Again, it's broken out into high priority keywords, and then hard and soft skills, and then other for these catch-alls that show up sometimes. And then remaining keywords is basically everything else. If you're only going to focus on one thing, I would say it's the hard skills in the high priority, right? It's just, we generally look for the hard skills. The soft skills are important and they'll come through in the interview, but I'd say really make sure you're addressing the hard skills in the JD. Also, one thing to note, this is part of the free, but if you put notes in the job tracker when you match a job, they'll come over to the resume builder for you. And then you also now, as part of Teal Plus, get unlimited achievements. So you can continue to add more and more achievements, and it's okay. I mean, it gets a little hard to navigate. We're working on how to manage that a little better. But the idea is don't sort of trim parts off of your successes. List them all, right? List everything awesome you've ever done. And the cool thing is now you can just include the ones that are relevant to that job, but it doesn't mean you had to get rid of those and sort of delete your successes, things you're proud of. They can all be here. You just want to show them to the people that will appreciate them, right? And this makes it super easy to do that. And you can work your way through and just get your match score higher and higher. Again, as the job is attached, it will pull in keywords from the JD for you. Now, obviously, you want to continue to review it. You can modify it if you're going after a particular keyword, and you can tweak those by hand. You can see my score continues to go up.